Renee, you're curious. Does it make sense to be super straightforward with your players or leave room for them to speculate? It's a flavor question, or it's like a style. It comes down to style. Yeah, Lex, it is hand drawn. So I think that it comes down to what kind of a world and what kind of a dungeon master you want to be. I can answer for myself, but I don't think that should be taken as like how to be. So like I know some dungeon masters who like to basically run a session, and then when the session is over, if the players are willing, they'll debrief the session with the players. And I think that is a version of fun and that's interesting. I would never do that. I prefer if my players have questions about the game world that they ask characters in the world, and that all of the answers, apart from very very basic things, or like retreading, or like if somebody can't remember from a session 10 sessions ago, like I'll help there. But I'm really really reticent to ever give answers from my point of view, because if I say it, it's just true. Whereas if three different NPCs tell them three slightly different stories, well, now they have to interrogate the world or decide what's true. You know, nothing is that certain. That's just my preference, though. Renee, you're gearing up to reveal that NPCs close to the party are missing, but I'm kind of struggling how to make them more sus of the carnival even before that. I was thinking maybe an investigator, maybe request help from some, and reveals that they think there's missing people at the carnival, but I don't know. Gotcha. The way to make people suspicious of the carnival is to have very clear bad things happen that aren't seemingly connected to the carnival until it's discovered that it is. So in other words, you know, I'll just use the old standbys. The blacksmith's kid is captured by goblins. Please help us, you know, come running into the town square. Somebody, anybody, the goblins that just, you know, ran off with my child. Okay, go save the kid from the goblins. In the den of where the goblins are, there is like a summoning circle, which is like, that's not what the goblins did. And there's a cloak, and on the cloak there's like a gold chain and there's a strange little symbol on a necklace. Weird. Okay, something descriptive, something about like the you know, the little emblem on the chain is like a smirking moon or something. I guess I've got Majora's Mask on the brain. Other things can happen. Maybe other clues are dropped, and eventually they meet the leader of the carnival comes to welcome them. He's so glad that they're there. You know, you're describing them, and without calling attention to it, you're like, yeah, he's got this, you know, cloak, and he's got this big sort of handlebar mustache and a chain, and it looks like there's a little crest on you know, the sash that connects his thing, and it looks like a moon with like a smirk on it. He's also got these kind of large furry boots. And what you're thinking, what you're hoping while you're describing all of these things, just boom, 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 giving factual descriptions, is that somebody's going to go, hold on a second, what did you say? What does that look like? And they're like, guys, that's like the thing that we found in the gut. And now they're instantly suspicious of the head of the carnival and the entire thing, right? Like, how is all of this connected to that horrible thing that we solved, you know, a session or two back? That's how I would approach it. And you could do a lot more build up around like bad things are happening and they sort of point in some way or another to the carnival without it being like the carnival itself. Maybe the carnival is overtly a positive thing and everybody has good feelings about it, and maybe the party's the only people that become suspicious that way. These players are first time players, although they're doing well, they're not too interactive with NPCs. That's fair. Yeah. I find when that's the case, where players aren't like necessarily sticking themselves out there, it can be helpful to have more talkative NPCs that, like when I'm creating an NPC, I'm also writing down in my notes for a character, like what is it that they're going to find worth commenting on with each of the player characters. That way there's something like, oh, I haven't seen a tabaxi since my time in such and connect them to like that character's backstory, or like just have something little to drop to provide those threads, so that even if all that the players are doing is saying, oh, so you've been to such and such, or oh, tell me more about that, like giving them sort of hooks mid conversation. It is more work, but it can sometimes help, I think, get those newer, it's not even about being new, but just players that are less comfortable with, you know, having those conversations with NPCs. It can maybe get them talking a little bit more than they otherwise would. You can also, I've never tried this, but it's fun to think about with like almost gamifying. I've kind of done this once. I've ever had an NPC have a slight grudge because of something like that. Yes, and that can be fun too. As long as, not everything's got to be a full blown fight, but you can have disagreements. I think disagreements can be in the right context. Everything's in the right context. Disagreements can be fun between. I guess I'd rather they exist between NPCs and characters than characters and characters. Infighting party characters can get tiring. There might be a fun way to experiment with gamifying talking to NPCs. I did this sort of thing once. That's a relevant video that's going to pop up there. But I did this once when my party, the big climactic sort of midpoint of my campaign just consisted of them trying to convince as many guild members as they could to side with them rather than the guild leader who's a lich. So just trying to get the people they recruited to join this guild for the first 10 levels of the game, trying to convince them, like, go with us. That dude's a lich, he's dangerous, and seeing how many people they could convince and how they could convince them. So to do that, each of the characters that they were trying to convince, I basically created sort of like a sliding scale of like, are they here are all of them, Kenku, the worm, the Kenku rogue, he's leaning more toward the lich than you guys. He's siding with the guild, whereas I don't know, Charlotte, the dwarven cleric, probably more so willing to trust you guys, and sort of laid all that out so that they could kind of pick and choose, like, who did they need to, how are they going to, in this kind of crowd setting, who do they reach out to and how, what do they say, how do they convince each of them, and gave them a handful of chances. And some of them, which was interesting, they were like, it's not even worth it. We can't convince them. Let's focus our attention over here. One of the reasons that I linked up that Ken Levine video, and one of the reasons I'm really excited for Ken Levine's next game, Judas, whenever it comes out, is that Ken seems really interested in, he's a game designer, System Shock, BioShock. He made those with a lot of talented people. One of the things he's really interested in is the relationships between characters in the world and characters in the party, and that dynamic between, and creating sort of ways of measuring and influencing those, and creating these big complex systems that allow that to happen. So let's boil all that down. What if when a character was introduced to a party, then we're trying to encourage them to talk more to those NPCs? What if we said, yeah, here's here's the why am I blanking on, here's like the local blacksmith, and the local blacksmith is, call it, fairly cold to all of you. That's their general disposition towards you. He's not really inclined to help you guys. But cold can be sort of upgraded to warm, or at least indifferent. And maybe then it'd be more likely. But just right now, probably not willing to really stick their neck out for you guys. Like, there's probably a way to provide that extra hook. So then the party thinks like, well, we could talk to these people if we want. It's like, oh, well, do we want the blacksmith to like us? How can we do that? Let's strike up a conversation. Let's see if we could change that. Almost saying, here's a character, here's what they have currently. And then as they walk away, or as you guys leave town, they've actually grown colder or warmer to you maybe, and now they're kind of on, this is their new disposition towards the party. That could be kind of interesting. Dialogue tree, small amounts of XP for passing checks. I mean, XP could be useful. I don't use it myself, but I have tried it once before, and I could definitely see how that could come into play. A great, not broken way to reward. Yeah, like yeah, and that's all I'm really talking about is like rewarding a different type of, or really introducing a different type of problem solving, I guess. Um, because some, I think, players disengage with the role play and the conversation with characters because they don't see it as a problem to solve. But if you present, hey, yeah, here's the owner of the tavern, and she right now is pretty upset with you guys. That's her current disposition, and then you can go into the back and forth. It's a little bit meta, but it exposes something that the players can impact. And I think we all sort of probably intuit that that's probably true when we talk to, characters in a game. But sometimes it's worth actually calling those things out, kind of putting a pin in them, putting them on the table and stating them outright can help encourage people to interact with it.